Good morning. My name is Chief Strongblood. I am St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son. I am the diaspora magician.
Welcome to Conspiracy or Reality. A program where we look at the mysteries of the unknown and other complex situations and try to find answers for them.
Today in Conspiracy or Reality, we are going to examine a video of an account that Steve Harvey shared to the world as it relates to a tax problem he had with the IRS starting in 2008. I would like you to listen to this video with an open mind and let us discuss the events as it relates to what Steve Harvey said.
Tax situation in 2008. My accountant died, and a girl that worked for him called my lawyer and said, "We have a problem." She had found on the floor all my tax forms for 7 years, signed and with the checks stapled to them. Well, they were cashing the checks, keeping the money, and not turning in the tax form. They took the money out of the account that matched the exact, because I wasn't watching it,
So
like
you-
600,000
Yeah, you looking at it, I got paid.
deducted.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's the check. Little did I know, it was some people taking the money out
For 7 years?
for 7 years.
How much money did that?
I ended up owing 22 million.
Wow.
22 million with the penalties. So now, listen to me, man. My lawyer called me and said, "Hey, man, we got a problem. You haven't paid taxes in 7 years." I said, "Man, what are you talking about? I paid taxes. I've been writing the checks and all this here." Oh, man. He said, "This woman found your taxes in your accountant's office on the floor. Every tax check I had written and every was stapled together for 7 years, quarterly." So he said, "Man, that's tax evasion. You can go to prison." And I said, "What we gonna do?" So he said, "Hold on, man, let me get some lawyers." So he called up some tax accountants out of Chicago. These boys was the best. Guys, let me take the first year. We took the first year and we sent it in. And he said, "Man, well, this is an old tax return." He said, "Man, we got a problem." He got more, but he didn't know it. And so we need a tax payment plan. So the tax payment plan was so astronomical that it was no way I could pay this. So the deal was, if you miss one payment, we come and seize all your assets and you go into jail. That was the deal. And I heard them say, nobody can live under this amount of stress. There's no way he can pay the back taxes, pay his current taxes, and his living expenses. And I heard a guy on the phone say, "What are we gonna do when he goes to jail?" And I hung the phone up. I went upstairs. I said, "Marjorie down." I said, "Marjorie, we got a problem." When I explained it to her, Marjorie started crying. She said, "Steve, what you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna go to work." I took every comedy gig in this country. I signed every contract. I went to work, man. I worked every single Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I went to every venue, the Verizon, Staples Center, MCI, Phillips. I sold out the Fox. I went everywhere. I stayed. And for 4 years in a row, I was sending $650,000 a month to the government. Plus, I had to pay my current taxes.
new taxes.
I couldn't get behind on nothing. And I was living. So I was credit cards, running them up, paying them off. And finally, man, in 2012, I sold 49% of my radio company to iHeart.
Steve's story is indeed a beautiful story of hardship, overcoming, and redemption. But there are many things about Steve's story that does not add up. Let me make it clear, it is not my goal or intention to accuse Steve Harvey of anything. I'm not going to say he's lying, but what I will say is the events in Steve's account as it relates to the story that was told just does not add up. Let me go a little further and say it is totally impossible for these events to have occurred as they were outlined in the story. According to Mr. Harvey, upon the death of his accountant, Steve's lawyer was reliably informed that Steve Harvey's accountant had not submitted his tax return for about 7 years starting from 2008. Mr. Harvey claimed that his accountant cashed the checks that was made out to the United States Treasury and took the equivalent of the checks that was made out to the United States Treasury and kept said money for himself. This could not have happened for the mere fact that the report to Steve Harvey's lawyer was the tax return forms and the checks were still affixed the tax return forms on his accountant's floor. This means that the checks were not cashed. Steve Harvey's accountant not embezzled money from Steve Harvey and or the IRS. First thing, each bank has a protocol when it relates to cashing a check for over a certain amount. A supervisor and a manager must first be summoned before such can be cashed. And secondly, which bank or bank teller is going to cash a check that was made out to the United States Treasury, that was presented to the teller or banker by someone who is claiming to be an accountant? Absolutely no banker or no teller will do such a thing. We must not forget that each bank has a policy as it relates to spent checks. When a bank cash a check, they are actually making a payment on behalf of the check writer. It is the policy of every bank to return the spent check to the check writer for accounting purposes. This is done to ensure that there were no fraudulent transaction that was done in relation to the check that was written. It gave the check writer the ability to compare the spent check with his copy to ensure the amount that was taken out of the account matches the amount that he approved, to ensure that the name to whom the money should be paid to matches that which he intended. This is to ensure that the check writer is not a victim of a crime, and if he or she was a victim of a crime, that crime can be reported in quick manner and have a speedy solution to the crime they were a victim of. The truth is, many Americans have developed an unrealistic fear of the Inland Revenue Service. The IRS is just another part of the Department of the United States Treasury that is responsible for collecting the taxes of individuals and corporations on behalf of the United States federal government. The IRS, like the Department of Treasuries, has laws that governs every aspect and function as well as every procedure in the Inland Revenue Service. These laws are not mysterious and these laws are not hidden. Like every law, they are available to the public. Let us just say, for argument's sake, Steve's story happened just as he said it happened. Then Steve Harvey, along with the United States Treasury, would have been a victim of a crime. The Inland Revenue Service has special investigators to investigate such crimes. Remember that Steve Harvey was not charged with tax evasion, but his lawyer and the accountants told him what is alleged to have happened amounted up to tax evasion. Tax evasion simply means that you either intentionally, through malice, or out of ignorance, have broken some federal tax law, where an individual failed to return to the federal government monies they should have returned as it relates to their earning, either their personal earnings or their business earnings. It is the actual violation of a law that is printed in black and white. Before one can be found guilty of tax evasion, there must be a trial. And there is also an appeal process. A person who is guilty of tax evasion can pursue. Remember, we are examining this information as happened as Steve Harvey related the story. If Steve Harvey's accountant embezzled money from Steve Harvey's account that were earmarked for the Inland Revenue Service, even if Harvey's accountant was dead, Steve Harvey still had the option of putting a lien on the homes, the businesses, and any account of the accountant's business. This would have prevented anyone who was entitled to Steve Harvey's accountant's inheritance from having access to such until a judge operating in its lawful jurisdiction made a decision on behalf or against Steve Harvey's claim. When you consider all of the evidence that was presented in this case, do you think that Steve's story was a made-up story for him to remain relevant and in the public eyes? Or do you think that it was an experience that he actually went through and he should be commended for his hard work and effort? Let me know what is your opinion. Leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. My name is Tree Strongblood. I am St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son. I am the Diaspora Machismo. I'll talk to you soon.